We have now come to our question and answer segment, and I will attempt to field as many questions to both our presenters during this 20-minute period before we have our break. So I want to confirm that Ms. Britton and Dr. Shadrach is available and online to answer the questions. So let me just get confirmation from my team first. Yes? Good.
Still here.
Good, excellent. So I will start with Dr. Shadrach. In terms of your presentation as in regards to augmented reality and virtual reality, one viewer has asked, what is likely these new innovations are likely to impact the competence of instructors and teachers? Do you have access to any research internationally or otherwise on the preparedness or willingness of the teachers to face this new reality?
Thank you for this question. It's indeed the time for us to not just do market research, but get on with the job of getting on to the challenges that we are facing. That's what we witnessed by the school sector. When the pandemic erupted, the school sector immediately responded by opening up online schooling for their students. When it comes to the TVET sector, as mentioned, a large number of TVET schools are closed, unfortunately, because we are not yet prepared to meet the challenge of meet the challenges as of now. So that said, my only submission would be for us to quickly get on with the job and not wait for any market survey or any preparedness survey. It's actors like CARICOM and others who would like to propose the way forward next steps with which we need to simply move ahead. But to give one word of solace, although it might look challenging that coming together is a difficult thing, but that's where regional institutions play a bigger role. But when it comes to integrating artificial intelligence systems, machine learning, AR, VR techniques, it's more than before easier. Even a middle school child can now use some of the AR techniques, which is basically overlaying kind of on a real image, overlaying the additional information that makes it easier for people to enjoy the joyful enjoy the learning as such in a manner that it's real. So AR is not something very different from a technology that superimposes a user's real world view. For instance, if you take a TVET practice, a user real world view can be captured today through high definition cameras, where the virtual text and images in real time can be superimposed. And that's making a lot of difference, and we are seeing this actually already in practice in many schools and colleges. It is not difficult for us to integrate this practice. It requires only minimal preparedness, I would think.
Thank you for that. And segueing on your comment about the role of the regional organizations in spearheading such innovations, we have another question that says, what plans are there at the level of CARICOM to fast track the digital transformation that you spoke to, Ms. Britton? And what exactly is the CARICOM vision as it regards to this transformation?
Thank you. That's a good question. Can you hear me, Madam Moderator?
We are hearing you.
Wonderful. I think there are a number of strands, obviously, which we couldn't talk about in this time allotted, but we do have I would call a modern plan for digital transformation, which is embodied in the single ICT space work. And that plan is available on the CARICOM.org website and looks at very distinct segments dealing with ICT for the region. One of the things that is important in there to our discussion is that there's a whole component on bringing technology to the people, which is which takes in a lot of this work which we are talking about this morning and other things in terms of making our citizens as digitally skilled as they need to be or can be. So there is work on the ground with regard to digital transformation in that plan, but digital transformation, as we've all shared, I think this morning, has other inputs such as skills, it has labor, it has other inputs for our region, and those plans are also well advanced for the most part. So I think there is good planning on the table to move us forward. I'd forgotten the second part of the question. I apologize.
So it was, what plans would CARICOM have had to fast track the digital transformation, and exactly what is the CARICOM vision for that transformation?
I think the CARICOM vision is also embodied in our plan, as I put in my presentation, to make sure that all of our citizens feel like they're thriving in their life as CARICOM citizens, and also giving the same experience to both CARICOM citizens and persons who come from outside of the region, where as it relates to technology in all of our countries. So we are working, the single ICT space has as its tenants harmonize things like broadband speed for business, broadband speed for homes. How do we roll out and where do we roll out the broadband? Where does the urgency for broadband roll out now vis-a-vis COVID and that type of thing? So there is a plan, but there are several components, tenants, and stakeholders which have to be in that space as we continue to move forward.
Thank you for that. Dr. Shadrach, we are back with you again. So you would have pointed to or alluded to the need for partnership with industry to make this effective. So the question is, what examples or models exist as a best practice in making the environment more conducive for collaboration between TVET institutions and private sector organizations?
Yeah, I think there are quite a few examples. When it comes to the private sector, we can see them as vendors who are vending technology. We can see them as people who produce skilled manpower for us in a targeted manner for a particular skill set that we need to bring in to the ecosystem. We can see them as collaborators in the process of enabling us to take on with our challenge. In this, particularly in terms of giving us the right to basically exploit technology, not to be tied down with a technological provider. There is also this open source community that is thriving in terms of introducing ICT in education. There are also national level initiatives in various countries where the ICT skill manpower could be made available for domestic needs. There are multiple ways we can integrate the industry into the practice, but also equally so when it comes to the integration of augmented reality practices. It's not just the IT sector, it's a combination of the IT sector and the trade sector and the trade educators and the regulatory bodies coming together. And in this, as mentioned by the other speaker, Ms. Jennifer Britton, it's important for a regional cooperation in such a way that even if your market share is small, you could have the strength in terms of using CARICOM and others as the platform for these sorts of negotiation. But one underlying principle should be to ensure that you are not tied to one particular vendor or one particular platform provider or one particular company. You need to have that liberty to choose, but you need to engineer this partnership in such a way that it is a win-win situation for everyone. At the end of the day, win-win situation for the citizens per se, and in their ability to acquire skills and excel in their life. And that's where organizations like us have an important role to play, being the partnership brokers and negotiators.
And speaking of partnership brokers, Ms. Britton, The question is, how can CARICOM support the establishment of a community of practice that is related to augmented reality and those ICT programs?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I think, well, first of all, it has to be a whole ecosystem. Some of the issues that Dr. Shadrach mentioned before are part of this ecosystem. And so it is a complex system, and it needs to be a system which actually functions. So I think pulling together the IT competencies is not the hard part. It is where are they pulled together and when are they used? So as I said in my presentation very quickly, you can't be planning for fabulous things like telepresence and augmented reality and then bring in the practitioners because they may know something that you don't know. So the question for me is more timing rather than how, but certainly we already have at the Secretariat level, we have a group of all the, for example, the senior ICT practitioners in every country. But a lot of these are persons with regard to augmented reality and the higher level of technologies, maybe in the private sector. So it is constantly on my mind, and I'm sure the mind of other regional practitioners as to how do we make this interesting and important enough, because private sector is about, chasing their economic gains. They have to pay their staff, they have to do other things. And so how do we make it interesting and important enough for these people to want to join us? And I suspect that as we continue to roll out what we want to do in TVET to modernize the sector, I believe that a number of persons will want to join us. There are words in the world like the coalition of the willing, but I think we need to do a little more incentivizing to bring them. So one of the issues may be that we put incentives in there to have them join us formally, and those could be as much as if we train 10 of their staff members, training 10 of their staff members per month on simple courses. They get the training very quickly without having to deal with that aspect of their work while they give us the expertise that they need. So it's still something that I continue to think about with my colleagues. It's not anything that I can point you to at the moment, but obviously we have to put incentives into our space as the ecosystem to make sure the private sector is really a day-to-day collaborator with us.
Thank you. Dr. Shadrach, on that point, from your Asian experience or your wider Commonwealth navigations, are there any examples or models that can be replicated as far as incentivizing training providers or their instructors to get on board with the initiative? I know you would have indicated that time is now, so we need to get moving, but the reality is that we are dealing in many spheres with both large and small providers. So sometimes an extra encouragement is required. So in your experience, can you advise us in some of the strategies that have been employed elsewhere?
Sure. I think, there are umpteen strategies, starting with quite a few technology providers, whether it's Microsoft, Intel, IBM, and also Google of late, which has come into in a big way in terms of providing Google Glasses to Google Classrooms and whatnot. You also have, providers that have emerged out of the education industry, particularly from the US, like Udacity, Coursera, and others that I mentioned. There are quite a lot of actors who are willing to embrace governmental partnerships in terms of taking the education sector to the next level. And in terms of the responsiveness, we have seen a lot of countries such as Malaysia, for instance, that have taken advantage. Singapore, another country that we can think about. Dubai, there are United Arab Emirates and others. You have seen a lot of collaboration in Scandinavia. In Canada, there are similar partnerships emerging. So we can see a lot of these happening. It's a matter of orchestration, and although there could be one view that the private sector needs to gain economic value for the shareholders, there is also this responsiveness from the private sector that's expected, particularly for remote communities where there is not a major market market share these companies could have, but still in terms of impacting the nation and as a success story, they are willing to embrace partnerships. I think we need to begin somewhere. It's not difficult for us to even tap the known actors in the field, but when it comes to augmented and virtual reality, we not only have the known actors investing billions of dollars in improvising the technology and making it available for common citizens, we also see small enterprises and small players emerging, and we need to encourage and incentivize such players to also emerge from the Caribbean, where we could not only incentivize and make it easier for them to add value to the education system, particularly TVET system in this case, but also portray them as champions for the region, so that we have homegrown solutions, but supported by the larger corporations for the benefit of the local community by the locals. That kind of a model could also emerge.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Britton, what are some of the challenges that you can see or expect in establishing an innovative hub in the Caribbean region for TVET and ICT, of course?
Interestingly, the first thing that popped into my head is that we don't even have a technical problem for that question. Basically, as I mentioned, the collaboration and cooperation is where we resist, and I'm not sure why. But it is probably bound up in the home of persons not being aware of the power of TVET. And so I think we need to build out the awareness while we try to get on with the work. But collaboration and cooperation are words that we've bandied around at the regional level and internationally as well. But what does it really mean? Who is a collaborator and who's a cooperator? And I think we need to really drill down on that and having a really almost formal cooperation framework, so that you ensure that you have documented almost all the people who should be in this innovation ecosystem with you, and ensure that the entrees to each are as respectful and as smart as they can be. And the technologies help us to do that a lot, because we've seen that we are webinar weary since COVID-19, but a simple meeting of pulling persons together may be easier effected using the technologies rather than planning to meet in a country, which probably won't happen until 2021. So it's really collaboration and cooperation and working on a documented framework for moving forward, I think, would be the linchpin for us in the region.
And our final question this afternoon is going to go to Dr. Shadrach. As it relates to open educational resources, do you have any advice in terms of where TVET teachers can access materials? They seem to be facing a challenge finding content relevant resource material on those platforms. Any advice?
Yeah, sure. I can since Ms. Jennifer Britton mentioned about blue economy, I can point to a blue economy course that the Commonwealth of Learning has come up with, actually developed by the Caribbean partners in the Caribbean, which deals with the range of blue economy concepts to the opportunities and the challenges, and how by actually harnessing the blue economy model, we can not only protect the oceans and the ocean resources, but maximize and optimize the resources. So, I invite you to access this particular course. But when it comes to OER in TVET, we need to start a movement. Of course, Commonwealth of Learning, UNESCO, UniWalk, and others have put out a lot of, undertaken a lot of efforts to bring together OER material. You also seen similar efforts by, say, where Vancouver is located, the BC campus providing OER grants to TVET practitioners to bring out e-modules and e-resources. There are open textbook projects that are there in the fray for some time now. So there are many ways to bring in open education resources for the aid of the TVET educators and the practitioners there. Even the Commonwealth of Learning is putting together a portal that would enable everyone to download and capitalize on. You can go to colbee.org, colvee.org, where you could find some resources. But I can say that going forward, this is one of the things that we need to focus on. We need more and more open education, free resources that are developed by the community themselves for their own use.
So
Madam
yes,
Moderator,
yes.
may I just say one thing? I think Dr. Shadrach answered it very wholesomely, but one other thing I think we miss as an opportunity for the region is that we too can add to these baskets of open resources, and there are courses that people want to hear from us. It's not only a take situation, we can give and take as well and use them to barter and negotiate as we go along the work. So we also have to keep conscious that a number of the things which may have even evolved in our space as what we view as negative, for example, the sargassum that was washing up on our sea, people may want to know how we removed it. What did we find that it was made up of? We may be able to put courses up like that as we look at other facets of adding to the space. So we also have an opportunity there as well as a region to add to the open resources.
Thank you so much for that reminder that the pendulum swings both ways. Yes, we definitely have to begin to join the conversation and allow our resources and our experience to be documented.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the close of this morning's first session in the National Training Agency's TVET convention. I would like to go on record and thank both our presenters this morning, and I will definitely be bold enough to say to Dr. Shadrach that the National Training Agency will certainly be accepting his offer to lead the charge in getting enrollments for that workforce recovery program. So you will be definitely hearing from us. So at this juncture, we will be taking.
Also open to the Caribbean community, so Ms. Britton can also take it.
Thank you, Dr. Shadrach. I'll be moving on it with them as well, and my colleagues.
Grabbing. So sorry for forgetting you, Ms. Britton. Okay. I just want to grab. Yes. So at this point, we will be having our break. We'll be breaking for lunch for an hour. We are going to reconvene at 12:30 for our afternoon session. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for participating and supporting us in this regard, and we look forward to seeing you logging back on this afternoon. Spread the word for any of your colleagues or friends who did not get a chance to log on. Let us keep the conversation going. Thank you very much. Do have an enjoyable afternoon and be blessed.
And thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you, NTA Trinidad and Tobago. I will make every effort to be on this afternoon, and I'll try to join you on Friday as well. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Dr. Shadrach. We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.